Okay, people. So now I'm eating Twizzlers. Getting my sugar high. And some energy. Before I start doing these things. I tell myself it's my last year. I will never come into contact with these things to the amount and to the degree that I have since living in this house. And here's the thing. Now that I know how to deal with them in terms of drying them, cracking them open to eat the nut so that the nut is nice and plump but not raw or over dry. And just the whole 9 yards, right? I'm not going to have access to them anymore. This is my last year. This is what happens because they sat in the shed, right? In the X Club here, right? So I got about twice as much. Anyway, I'll be back. Hold on.
Oh, wait, Andre. Hold on.
You're wet inside.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Andre. Happy birthday to you.
All right.
We're a little late on this. Every year we do something big, so taking a break this year.
Yeah. I'm outside doing the walnuts, people. I'm so tired. I got all those English walnuts done, except for just a little bit. You can see, and a few scragglers in a bag here and there. And I'm into the black walnuts, but as you can see, you'll see where a lot of them have molded because that's what black walnut does. And you know, here's the thing, people. Now that I know more about how to deal with walnuts, like drying them and husking them and all this other crap, right? Because I've been doing it for several years now, right? And of course there's no more walnuts now, right? So it's anything that I've learned is kind of pointless now because I won't be able to use it next year, right? But besides that point, what I've discovered is that, like, when all those walnuts came in, do you know what would have been the best way to prevent the mold on those walnuts? Would have been to kind of layer them within sand. If I would have layered them in within sand, they would have not, one, dried out as fast as they're drying out, because they're actually drying out, right? And when they start drying out, it gets really hard to take off the rind, right? But these you can still use for ink, right? But anyway, but when they're like this, and you stack them all together, you know, within a week or so, right? Because it's been, what, 8 days now since they tore down the trees? And I just finished doing the English walnuts, and I'm still cracking them open, right? Some of them, you know, and putting the food in a jar, right? Now I'm getting into these ones, and technically what I should have done is I should have put them in a layer of sand or fine dirt, you know, nothing wet, just kind of damp, you know, just lightly damp. And it would have preserved the husk and prevented some of this mold that's happening in terms of this kind of stuff, right? Plus it's drying out. Oh, anyway, I'm still happy to have them. I tell myself there's worse places in life I can be than to be messing with this stuff, right? You know, this is a blessing because I can actually grow trees, people. That's the thing. If I couldn't grow trees, I wouldn't do it. And then I get the ink. And for the shells that don't grow, even if they're in the dirt for a year, right? Like I took out some old Uncle John's black walnuts that were in his room after I got raided by that squirrel or whoever in the front and wiped me out of 100 walnuts all at one time in one night. I mean, no squirrel's going to do that, people. Right? And then I had that bag in Uncle John's room, right? And I thought, oh, what the fuck, plant some. And actually 2 more little ones just popped up, like in the last 2 weeks. There's one over there and there's another one over there. Out of Uncle John's room in that bag, I think I got, it was like 50 walnuts in a bag, or maybe 100 walnuts in a bag. I got something like 10. That's not bad for walnuts that have been sitting in a bag for too long, right? In terms of they do dry out, right? And then the ones that were in the ground, I pulled them out, rinsed them off, and they're still heavy. I don't know if it's because there's something in them, or if it's because they're saturated with water. But anyway, those ones I can still use for crafts. So every single part of the black walnut you can use. You can use the roots, you can use the bark, you can use the leaves, you can use the nuts, you can use the husk, you can eat the walnut itself in terms of the food part of it, right? The shells you can use in multiple layers, right? In other words, you can crush up those shells and use them as a grinding material, a sanding material too. That's what they use for shining things and stuff like that in industry, right? So when these things are being mass produced, you know, the shells, they all go to an industry, they crush them all up, and then they use them with their products to do different things. Plus they make walnut paint, stain, all this other stuff, right? So who wouldn't consider themselves blessed, right? Even though it's a pain in my ass right now, because like I'm really tired. And but I got a little system going on here. I'll show you. I'm determined to finish the job. Some of these are going up to Brazil, so you know. Hold on. This is where I'm at. You see? Right? I started sorting through them. I'm going to work with these ones first, because these ones I know the nuts are good. Right? Finish up those, go through those miscellaneous bags. I got one more miscellaneous bag right there because Andre and I just went back to the field. You've seen that. We don't have the dog anymore because she was just a little bit too yappy for me. This is what I did yesterday. These ones come from these ones. I don't know how viable these ones are in terms of do they have anything in them or do they dry out like this. So after they're washed, I'll crack a few open, and if it looks like some of them can be planted, then I'll plant them. And if it looks like they're just all dried out, then they'll be used for crafts. So, hold on. Oh yeah, look at that. Isn't that kind of cool? Okay, I decided to have another smoke before I start, right? It gets really grueling after a while, people. Anyway, I guess I should do a little update here on things, right? In terms of the foundation and whatnot. And everybody watch my YouTube videos regularly, know what my feelings are around my daughter, so I'm not going to discuss that at this point. But in regards to like the non-profit and stuff, obviously I still work on the non-profit, right? So now that I'm growing all these trees, I have no place to put them, right? I mean, obviously, eventually I'm going to try and sell a couple off of Craigslist just because, but I don't want to do that until I know that they've taken root, because again, after going through all this, I know all this stuff about the black walnut and the English walnut, right? In terms of how to grow trees and what they like and blah, blah, blah. And if you take them out too soon and you detach them from their seed, you actually kill the tree. I didn't know that until I went through the process and learned by experience. So, you know, the few trees that I have around right now, they're not going to leave for a while, right? And I'm going to plant some more. But, you know, I've talked to a couple of people that showed an interest in the foundation. One in particular, he's a property developer, right? And he had me out there looking for properties. I don't know. I don't think we were on the same page in terms of what he wanted and what I was thinking in terms of what I wanted. He knew I was working on a foundation, but he didn't know to what degree to the things that I would want to continue with the mandate, right? Which would be, you know, property with green space. In other words, some acreage. Not just a piece of property where you can tear down the house and build another house, right? Because that's his business, that's what he does. And, you know, I looked at one of his houses because he had a couple of rentals, and, he said, well, I can't give you this one because blah, 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 but, you go find another house, and I'll buy that, and then you can continue working on your nonprofit. And I'm like, wow, this is great, and I took it serious because he knows one of the board directors on the foundation, so people like this, they're not going to necessarily die, right? So I, opportunity only comes knocking once, right? So I looking, and I found some property, 2 acres, right, with a little 1908 bungalow on it, which could be considered a heritage house, right? And just the 2.05 acres. Just like, I could plant walnut trees, I can have, the hen house with we can get Mr. Lace back, and, 2-3 years later, knock, 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 can I have my rooster back? Mr. Lace, he has a job, right? I have always said his job is with the community and the kids, and, he needs to come back home, right? Because I promised Mr. Lace I'd bring him back home when I had a place for him, so just, get some, build it an aviary, or maybe a bird sanctuary, because with all the, what is it called? you know, forestry being cut down. A lot of the native birds, like the pheasants that run the ground, you know, they're being wiped out, people. Like, they are. If it's not the animals, the raccoons and the cats catching them, they're losing their habitat, right? And some of these birds are really quite nice, right? So, anyway, when I called him on it, right, I said, well, here, I got it all now. And I found a 6-bedroom bungalow. I gave him 3 properties to look at, right? And of course, I was most excited about the acreage ones, right? And then, long story short, he called me back, and I gave him walnuts. I told him this is, you know, the black walnut is very, very rare. And then, you know, the English walnut is rare, you know, and then I've got another English, I got a larger English nut that comes in like this versus small, right? You'll see it through my video, right? And, you know, I grow 3 different types of walnut trees now, right? And I told him he can either grow them himself or he can eat them after he dries them. Anyway, he calls me back and he goes, well, that's not really the kind of property I was thinking of, and, you know, and you need to come to my job site and see what I do. And I'm like, well, I kind of know what you do, you know, because he's building 7 houses in a row. But I will go see. I'm just giving him some time to, you know, think about what I presented to him, right? And maybe talk to the board director or something like this, right? Because, you know, I mean, as much as we need 7 houses in a row, we also need 7 lots in a row to build in more green space. So how we merge the 2 together where everybody can benefit from it still remains to be seen. But that's where I'm at with working on the foundation right now, people. Okay. And because our board of directors is changing, I'm tired. I was doing walnuts. Walnuts is hard on you, and then you're dealing with the stuff that you know, the dust, and it absorbs into your hand and splashes on your face, and you're scrubbing. So anyway, the board of directors, I'm supposed to be smoking my smoke. The board of directors is changing. Okay? In other words, there are people becoming directors that are business owners, homeowners, going to school and college and that type of thing for, you know, to learn 2nd or 3rd professions, you know, people that speak different languages and more than one, you know. I think one board director speaks something like 5 or 7 different languages. Like, that's amazing. Right? And so, you know, over a period of time, I would think that the foundation will take a different direction in terms of it won't be on lockdown, right? Because the key is getting turned in the lock to unlock it. And then because it was written in to build in opportunity and create jobs and, you know, sustainability and, you know, meets many different aspects of the social, economical, I'm thinking grid, platform, spectrum, because it goes like this, right? You know, some of us are here, some of us are there, some of us are there. You know, the foundation was kind of written to kind of meet it all. People just don't see that, though, because there's too much vision. You're talking 1,000 years. That's a lot of walnut trees to grow in 1,000 years, people. But if even a handful wanted to do it, we could do it. And some of these walnuts are going up to Brazil on a mountain to repopulate so that they don't die out in their own native land in British Columbia and Canada. Because at the rate we're going, they're going to die out in British Columbia and Canada. Okay? Don't shoot the messenger. I'm the messenger. And some of those people want the message. And it just so happens these ones are going on an airplane to get there, right? Now, if I can get the people in British Columbia, Canada, on that page, so that we can get that 2 acres and start planting some trees and bringing some community programs for the elderly and the youth and, you know, for the schools and all that other stuff, right? Because it's all there, it's all written down, it's been written down for years and years and years and years and years and years. And I gave that rich man that builds all those properties ancient information in an envelope that, I don't know, 15 MLAs have in this province right now, currently, tucked away up on some shelf somewhere. That's called a sleeper cell, people. A sleeper cell. You see those trees? This one right there. It grew like 2 feet. There's that little one that just sprouted out. It's hard for me to see because the sun is behind me here, people. But do you see that little one there? Just a teeny weeny baby? It just sprouted out like a week ago. Like, how come? So I'm not even going to try and transplant it, right? So we're just going to leave it there. And I got another one that sprouted out. Where is it? And then I got another one that sprouted out about the same time. It's in the X Club right now, / greenhouse painting room. Anyway, you can see they're growing there. Right? Okay, here's my little system from what? Left to right? These ones I'm gonna do. Got my pots ready. Okay, so this is where I'm at right now, as you can see. Anyway, hold on. I'm having a smoke break. I'm sitting here. Sometimes I talk to myself. I talk to Uncle John. I still talk to Uncle John all the time. Not as much as I used to, but quite a bit. Every week, anyway. A few times a week, if not more than that, right? You bring me tea, John? You want a coffee? John, you want a coffee? When you ask a man for 30 years if he wants a coffee, 30 plus years if he wants a coffee, and you go, yeah, I want coffee. Have a tea. You want a tea? Yeah, sure, I'll have a tea. Let's have coffee and tea together. And then poof, he's gone. Like Shmay, poof, she's gone, right? You know what I mean? You just don't, it doesn't leave your brain. It doesn't leave your brain, people. And then like with Shmay, you know, like there's certain, like if I go and get the potato masher, for example. I need the potato masher. The minute I start thinking about the potato masher, I start thinking about Shmay, and she's like, I can feel her. I can feel her coming for that potato masher, right? Or I'll make a nice meal, you know? I'll take the time to big pork chops, or, whatever it is, right? Or homemade penne, or doesn't matter, right? It could be anything and everything. And I just think of Shmay, because Shmay liked to eat, right? She liked it when I made nice meals. You know, scalloped potatoes and it's just, I don't know. So anyway, some of this stuff here, what I'm doing right now, in this bucket, because these rinds are okay, right? I dry them separately. I do them in the oven at 190, people. 190 to pasteurize them, okay? Pasteurizing is the secret at 190. And then I keep them separate from the other powder that I make, because the other powder is more for ink, right? Or stains or that type of thing. Whereas this one in this pot right now, what I'm doing is I'll bake them in the oven at 190 until they're dry. And then grind them up, and then I put them in my bedroom. I put it in my bedroom because you can use that for external and internal use in terms of like if you wanted to deworm yourself or deworm your animals or whatever it was, you could put a bit of that powder in there in their food, and it will help to deworm. And that's another thing why, you know, it bothers me that they're cutting down these trees, people, because the more they cut down these trees, the more that they're putting the local wildlife at risk to freaking worms and disease and all this other stuff, because the husk itself, people, it's like an acid, right? Because one time I burned in between my fingers. I have a video of that, right? YouTube for some reason put it as a dirty video because I was showing the injury that the black walnut husk can actually cause, right? Because I was wearing gloves and it was late at night and I was going like this and the water was in, you know, and I didn't want to change my gloves. I just wanted to finish what I was doing, and sure enough, by the time I took off my gloves, it was all burnt and I panicked and I went to the emergency, and they said, oh, what did you do? And I'm like, oh, well, I've been husking black walnuts. She goes, oh, so you've been working with acid. I said, no, I haven't been working with acid. I've been working with black walnut husk. Well, it turns out that's what black walnut husk is a form of acid. That's why it eats things. So it kills disease and stuff like that, right? So, so this batch here is for, maybe a face scrub or an antiseptic, or, I could sprinkle it into my cat's food for a dewormer. I could put it in, sprinkle some powder on the dog food that I may feed the raccoons, because they're not coming into contact with this anymore, right, people? Because the trees are being wiped out and being replaced with brick and holly trees. Holly trees that the province of British Columbia, Canada thinks is a nuisance tree, but yet those are the ones that are being protected. I don't get it. Everything is backwards in society. Have you noticed that? Even with the fucking trees. Like, if a holly tree is considered a nuisance tree, why the hell did they mark it off to protect it? Like, who did that? I'd like to know who put their signature on that one. As they're cutting down natural protectors to the wildlife from disease. Not to mention a food source, because they eat the rind. Not only do they eat the rind, but they get into these nuts and they eat the nuts. Right. So anyway, I got a long way to go yet. I got another 3 or 4 more days with these things. I'm pushing myself on it. You can tell I'm annoyed, right? But it's worth it, Hard work pays off. Perseverance is a oh God, I already forgot. Perseverance brings rewards. No, it's hard work brings rewards. I don't know. I'm too tired right now, people. This is not easy. But that's okay. I'm way past the halfway mark now. Next year I'll be writing those children's stories and writing children's songs. You mark my words. If I'm alive, I'll be writing children's stories and children's songs. Gonna make some puppets. Start a little online business. Got it all figured out.